Jack sat alone at the edge of the alien market. His jacket was torn, his shoes were dirty, and his credit chip was empty. He hadn't eaten in 2 days. The alien world of Narthale was bright and loud, but Jack felt invisible in the crowd. No one cared about a broke human stranded far from Earth. He had no job, no friends, and no hope then. She appeared. A tall woman walked toward him. She had glowing purple eyes, silver skin, and long black hair that floated like it was underwater. She wore royal robes, but she moved quickly, like someone hiding from danger. Jack looked up, unsure if she was coming toward him or someone else. But then she stopped right in front of him. "You are human," she said softly, her voice like music. Jack nodded slowly. "Yeah, last time I checked," he replied. She sat down beside him, not caring that the ground was dirty. "I need your help," she whispered. "I will pay you well." Jack blinked, unsure what she meant. "I'm not looking for work," he said. "I've had enough trouble already." She leaned closer, her eyes serious. "I want you to pretend to be my husband," she said. Jack laughed, thinking it was a joke, but she didn't smile. "I will pay you 50,000 credits, she added. Jack's heart skipped a beat. That was more money than he had ever seen. But why would someone like her, rich, beautiful, powerful, need a fake husband? Jack scratched his head. "Okay, what's the catch?" She looked around before answering. "My name is Zahara," she said. "My family wants me to marry someone I do not love. Someone dangerous," she added. "I need to stop the wedding, and I need someone no one expects. A human." Jack looked into her eyes. She seemed scared, but also strong. Still, this whole thing sounded like a trap. "How do I know you're not just using me for something illegal?" he asked. "You don't," she said. "But I am willing to pay you before we begin." That got Jack's attention. She handed him a small credit chip. He scanned it on his broken wristpad. 10,000 credits already loaded. His stomach growled. "Just thinking of food. Just act like my husband," she said. "Be quiet. Stay close. And trust me." Jack stared at the chip, then back at her. It was a crazy offer, but he was starving. And she had just handed him more money than he'd had in years. "All right," he said, standing up. "Let's get fake married." They walked through the market together. Zahara gave him a clean jacket and a pair of sleek alien sunglasses. They reached a transport station guarded by tall alien soldiers. Zahara held Jack's hand tightly. Her voice changed calm. "Proud, noble. This is my husband," she told the guards. Jack gave a small nod, pretending to be shy. The guards stepped aside. Jack exhaled quietly. Maybe this would work after all. They boarded a glowing white shuttle. Inside, everything was clean and cold. Zahara sat beside him, silent for a while. Jack leaned back, trying to relax. "Why me?" he asked finally. "There are a lot of people who could do this. You are not from this world," she said, "and you are desperate. You have nothing to lose." Jack couldn't argue with that. She wasn't wrong. He looked out the window as they flew above the city. Buildings stretched into the clouds, covered in glowing vines and crystal towers. It was beautiful, but strange. Just then, Zahara stiffened. A small screen near her seat lit up. Her face turned pale. "They found us," she said, almost in a whisper. "Who?" Jack asked, sitting up. "My fiance's men," she said. "He has hunters tracking me." The shuttle suddenly tilted. The lights flickered. Zahara grabbed Jack's hand. "We must move quickly," she said. "The lie must become real now." Jack didn't like how serious her voice sounded. This was no longer about easy money. This was about survival. As the shuttle landed at a private palace, guards waited at the entrance. Zahara smiled and waved, pulling Jack close. "From now on," she whispered, "you are mine." Jack smiled nervously, but deep down, he knew something wasn't right. This was more than a fake marriage, much more, and whatever it was, he was already in too deep to walk away. Jack stood beside Zahara inside the tall crystal palace. The floors sparkled, and the walls looked like frozen water. Alien nobles walked around them in glowing robes, whispering and staring. Everyone looked like royalty, and Jack felt completely out of place. He held Zahara's hand tighter, pretending to be calm, but inside, his heart was racing. Guards followed them as they walked through the grand hallway. Paintings of powerful alien warriors lined the walls. Zahara's family was clearly important. She walked with her chin up and her step steady, but Jack could feel her hand tremble in his. He whispered, "Are you sure this will work?" She nodded slightly. "Just play your role." They entered a huge room filled with family members. Zahara's father sat on a tall chair that looked more like a throne. His face was stern, and his skin shimmered gold. Beside him stood a woman who looked like Zahara but older, probably her mother. The moment they saw Jack, their eyes narrowed. The room went silent. Zahara stepped forward and spoke loudly. "This is my husband," she said. "We married in secret." Gasps filled the air, and someone dropped a glass. Her father rose from his chair. "You married a human?" he asked in disbelief. "Yes," Zahara replied, "and I will not marry the warlord." Everyone began shouting at once. Jack didn't understand half the words they used, but it was clear they weren't happy. A guard reached for his weapon, and Jack's stomach dropped, but Zahara raised her hand. "Touch him, and you will answer to me," she said coldly. The guard froze. Her father clenched his jaw but sat back down. "You are still my daughter," he said, "but this is a shame." Later, in a private room, Zahara sat quietly. Jack paced the floor. "That didn't go well," he said. "They didn't kill you." She answered, "That's good enough." Jack stopped. "I thought this was just a simple act." "No," she said. "Not anymore." Jack stared at her. "Tell me the truth this time." Zahara looked at him, her eyes full of sadness. "The man my father wants me to marry is not just a warlord," she said. "He is a killer, a monster, and once I marry him, I will never be free again." Jack sat down beside her. "You could have just run away forever." "I tried," she whispered, "but he always finds me." Jack didn't know what to say. He had agreed to fake a marriage, not start a war, but the way Zahara looked at him like he was her last chance made it hard to walk away. He sighed. "All right, what do we do now?" Zahara smiled a little. "Now we act like a real couple." Jack blinked. "What does that mean exactly?" "Sleep in the same room," she said. "Eat together, talk together, make them believe it. And if they don't, then they will send you back to Earth," she said. "In a box." Jack didn't laugh. That night, they sat together at a long dinner table. Her family watched closely, especially her father. Jack told a fake story about how he met Zahara in a marketplace on Earth. Zahara laughed softly and rested her hand on his shoulder. Her father frowned. A noble nearby leaned over and whispered something. Jack couldn't hear it, but Zahara's face changed. Her smile faded, and her hand tightened around her fork. Later, in the room they now shared, Zahara locked the door. "There's a spy among the nobles," she said. "They're watching us." Jack looked out the window. "What now?" "We stay close," she said, "and you don't leave my side." He nodded slowly. "This is getting dangerous." "It was always dangerous," she said, "but now you're part of it." Jack sighed and sat on the edge of the bed. "Remind me again how much I'm getting paid." Zahara chuckled. "Enough to buy a small moon." "Great," Jack said. "I'll use it to hide after this is over." But deep inside, something had already changed. He wasn't just helping for money anymore. He cared now, even if he didn't understand why, and that feeling scared him more than the warlord outside the room. A silent figure crept through the halls. Its eyes glowed red, and its fingers were long and sharp. It moved without sound, like a shadow, and it stopped right outside Jack and Zahara's door. The game had only just begun. Zahara woke up first. She didn't move or speak. She just stared at the door. Something felt wrong. The air was too quiet, too still. Jack was still asleep on the small couch, his arm over his eyes. The fake husband, resting like a man who didn't know a killer might be on the other side of the door. Then came the soft clicking sound, not a knock, not footsteps. It was like claws tapping on glass. Zahara moved quickly and quietly. She reached under the bed and pulled out a small pulse knife. She walked to Jack and shook his shoulder gently. "Wake up," she whispered. "Now." Jack opened one eye, groggy. "I was dreaming about pancakes." He mumbled. "There's something outside the door," she said. He sat up fast, now wide awake. Zahara held a finger to her lips and pointed at the door. The clicking stopped. They listened, holding their breath. Nothing then. The doorknob slowly turned. Jack grabbed the small lamp from the table. Zahara nodded once. The door creaked open. Just a little. A shadow moved. Zahara threw the knife, and a loud hiss followed. The door flew open, and something tall and thin ran off into the hallway. Its body was covered in black armor, and its eyes glowed red. Jack rushed to close the door, locking it again. "What was that?" he asked. "One of his hunters," she said. "They never stop in the morning." Zahara told her father there had been an attack. He acted surprised, said he would look into it. But Zahara didn't trust him anymore. Jack didn't either. They needed to know what was really going on. They needed help. Zahara took Jack to a hidden part of the palace, behind a wall panel, down an old staircase. They reached a dark room full of screens and wires. A woman sat at the center, her eyes glowing with code. "This is Myra," Zahara said. "My friend from before all this mess." Myra looked at Jack and smiled. "So you're the fake husband." Jack gave a tired smile. "I'm starting to feel pretty real about it." Myra showed them security footage. The hunter had entered the palace through a secret door, one only high-ranking nobles could use. "Someone from inside let it in," she said. Zahara's face went cold. "I think it's my uncle," she whispered. "He wants me married to the warlord so he can get power." Jack sat down hard. "So what now?" "We prove the truth," Myra said, "and fast." Zahara nodded. "The wedding is in 4 days." Jack looked at her. "Then we have 4 days to make them believe I'm not just your fake husband." They started acting like a real couple in public. They walked arm in arm, shared drinks, told jokes. Jack even kissed her cheek once in front of the nobles. Zahara laughed like it was real, but deep inside, it was starting to feel like it was one night. As they sat alone in the garden, Jack looked up at the alien moon. "You know," he said, "when I first met you, I thought you were crazy." "I am," she smiled. "Crazy enough to fight my fate." Jack looked at her, really looked. Her hair glowed in the moonlight, and her eyes were tired but strong. He felt something strange in his chest, not fear, not duty, something else. Before he could speak, Myra called them through a small device. "I have proof," she said. Zahara and Jack ran to the hidden room. On the screen, her uncle was talking to the hunter. He gave it instructions and handed over a map of the palace. "This is enough to stop the wedding," Jack said. Zahara shook her head. "No," she whispered. "This is enough to start a war." That night, the palace was locked down. The guards searched every corner. Zahara's uncle disappeared, but the warlord arrived early. He stood in the main hall, tall and terrible. His voice was deep and cruel. "I will have her," he said. "With or without the human." Jack watched from a balcony. He felt small, useless. But then Zahara stood beside him and whispered, "I trust you." And somehow, those 3 words made him stand taller. The warlord gave a warning. "If she is not mine by the next sun, I will burn this palace to ash." Zahara turned to Jack, her eyes full of fire. "Then we have 1 day left," she said. 1 day to fight back." Jack nodded slowly. He wasn't just pretending anymore. He was in it, all the way. The palace was quiet, but it wasn't peaceful. It was the kind of silence that hides fear. Guards moved like ghosts through the halls, eyes watching every shadow. Servants whispered rumors about war, betrayal, and a human who dared to love an alien noble. Jack sat by the window, holding a stolen map of the city tunnels. His hands were dirty, and his heart was heavy. He hadn't slept, neither had Zahara. She stood near the door, dressing in armor that shimmered like night glass. "You don't have to come," she said without turning. Jack stood up slowly. "I didn't come this far to back out now," he replied. Mira had found an escape route. But it wasn't safe. The warlord had eyes everywhere, on rooftops and crowds, even among the palace staff. If they were going to break the engagement, they needed proof stronger than words. Proof that the warlord was not just dangerous, but a criminal. And Mira had told them where to find it. A hidden bunker below the city. Inside it, a stolen database records of the warlord's secret deals, weapons smuggling, forced marriages, slave markets. If they could get it, the wedding would be called off, and the warlord would be finished. The two of them, dressed like workers, faces covered with dust scarves. They moved through the busy market, trying not to draw attention. Zahara looked different now, not like a noble woman, but like a fighter in Jack. He was starting to believe he was more than a fake husband. They reached an old transport station. The lower levels had been closed off for years. Jack used a stolen access key to open the door. Rusty metal groaned as it slid open. They stepped into darkness. Only the sound of dripping water and humming wires guided them. As they moved deeper, they found old signs with warning symbols. Jack pointed at one. "Danger," he said. Reading the faded letters, Zahara smirked. "Sounds about right." They reached a sealed door, half buried in rubble. Mira's voice crackled through their gums. "Be careful," she said. "The warlord used this place as a prison once." Pried the door open, and a foul smell hit them. The room inside was full of broken machines and dark stains. In the corner, a large terminal blinked with weak light. Zahara rushed over, her fingers flying across the panel. Mira guided her through the hack. Suddenly, files filled the screen. Names, photos, contracts, locations. "This is it," Zahara whispered. "This is everything." They started copying the data onto a small crystal drive. But then they heard it, footsteps, slow and heavy. Jack peeked through a crack in the wall. 3 hunters, armored and armed. Zahara pulled out her pulse pistol. Jack grabbed a metal pipe from the floor. "We're outnumbered," he said. "We have the proof," she replied. "We can't let them take it." The fight started fast. The room lit up with red flashes. Zahara fired without fear. Jack swung hard, surprising even himself. 1 hunter fell. The second tried to flank them. Zahara kicked over a machine and used it as cover. Jack dodged a blast that burned a hole in the wall. Then, the last hunter lunged at Zahara. She screamed as they crashed into the terminal. The screen shattered. But Jack grabbed the hunter and pulled it off her. They rolled across the floor. Jack slammed the pipe against its mask until it cracked. The red glow faded, and the hunter stopped moving. Breathing hard, they stood up. Zahara held the crystal drive in her hand. "It's safe," she said. "We have it." But Jack was bleeding. From his shoulder, she tore cloth from her sleeve and pressed it against the wound. "You saved me," she whispered. Jack smiled weakly. "I'm supposed to be your husband, remember?" They limped back through the tunnels. Each step was heavy. But the drive in Zahara's hand gave them strength. Above them, the city was waiting for a wedding. But what it would get was something else entirely. As they reached the palace gates, Mira greeted them. She held up a small device. "Ready to upload the data?" Jack nodded. "Do it." The skies above the palace filled with light as giant screens lit up. Every noble, every guest, every citizen saw the truth. The warlord's secrets, exposed to the entire planet. Gasps echoed through the crowd. The warlord's name was now cursed. Guards turned on him. Nobles stepped back in fear. Zahara stood beside Jack, holding his hand. She had no crown, no throne. But she had courage, and now the people knew the truth. But just as it seemed everything was over, the warlord vanished. No one saw him leave. No one knew where he went. Only one thing was certain: he would return. The palace shook with noise. Guards rushed through the halls, shouting into their combs. Zahara stood on the balcony with Jack beside her. Below them, the crowd still watched the massive sky screens. Frozen in silence, everyone had seen the truth. The warlord's crimes, his lies, his secret empire, all revealed in front of the world. But the warlord was gone, disappeared like smoke. No one knew how he escaped. Jack felt the weight of it in his chest. They had won the public. Yes, but not the war. Zahara's father finally stepped forward and addressed the people. He declared the wedding canceled. He stripped the warlord's name from the family records. But even as he spoke, his voice sounded forced. Jack noticed it. So did Zahara. Her father was afraid that night. Zahara couldn't sleep. She stared out the window while Jack sat on the floor, cleaning a bandage on his shoulder. Something is wrong, she said quietly. Jack nodded. You feel it too? Yes, she whispered. He's not finished. In the morning, their fears became real. A transmission reached the palace. No face, only a voice, deep, metallic, cruel. I gave you a choice, it said. Now I take what I want. The message ended with one word flashing in red. Sundown, Zahara's. Father ordered the palace locked, guards doubled, gates sealed, towers armed with plasma turrets. But it didn't feel like enough. The warlord had his own army, one loyal, one ruthless. He wouldn't attack like a general. He would strike like a monster. Jack stood with Zahara on the training grounds behind the palace. Soldiers trained there, but now it was quiet. He held a long staff, trying to copy Zahara's movements. She showed him how to block, how to move his feet, how to breathe. You're getting better, she said. Jack chuckled. I still hit myself in the knee. Better than hitting me, she said with a smile. A loud alarm suddenly echoed through the grounds. Then silence. Zahara's cum crackled. It's Myra, the voice said. They're inside. Zahara grabbed her weapon and ran. Jack followed without thinking. They entered the palace from the side, through hidden paths. Guards were down, some unconscious. Others worse, no explosions. No sounds, just bodies. The hunters, Zahara whispered. They're here, Myra's voice came again. They're heading for the tower. The throne room? Jack asked. No, Zahara said, eyes widening. The vault. They ran faster, cutting through side halls. Zahara opened a panel and revealed a shortcut tunnel. Inside it was dark and narrow. Jack slipped once, scraping his arm on a wall. They reached the vault door just as two hunters stepped out. Zahara didn't wait. She fired first. One fell. The other charged at Jack. Jack ducked and swung his staff hard. The hunter's head cracked against the wall. Inside the vault, something was missing. A small box that glowed blue, now gone. Zahara's face went pale. He took it, she whispered. What was it? Jack asked. A memory cube, she said. It holds everything, codes, secrets, ancient commands. With it, he can control anything tied to our bloodline. The sky turned orange as the twin suns began to set. Sundown was near. Jack stared out the window and saw the city lights go dark. One by one, systems failed. Then, from above, a shadow passed over the palace. An old warship, massive and broken, rose from the clouds. It was alive with stolen power. He's using the cube to fly that thing? Jack asked. Zahara nodded. And that ship has weapons strong enough to melt this whole city. The warlord's voice came again, now louder, echoing from every device. I asked for peace, he lied. Now I bring justice, people screamed. In the streets, sirens rang. The palace shook as the ship hovered lower, casting a black shadow over everything. Jack looked at Zahara. We stop him, she said. Tonight. How? He asked. There's one way, she said. A public challenge, ancient law. He accepts, he fights. He loses, we win. And if he doesn't, then I marry him, she said. And all of this ends. Jack stared at her. He had come for money, he had stayed out of loyalty, but now, he stepped forward and said, then I'll challenge him. Zahara's eyes widened. You're human. She said, so what? Jack replied. Let's remind them what that really means. Asterisk, the sun disappeared behind the black warship. A blood-red glow filled the sky. People gathered in the plaza below the palace. Their faces pale, no one spoke. Even the children stopped crying. Everyone was waiting. Zahara stood in front of the great steps, her armor tight across her chest. Beside her, Jack wore only a simple tunic, his human body clearly outmatched. But his eyes didn't show fear, only fire. A platform rose from the stone ground. Surrounded by glowing light, it was old tech, sacred, untouched for generations. The trial ring, an ancient challenge used to settle matters between leaders. Once entered, only one could walk out alive unless mercy was given. The warlord descended from his ship on a metal throne carried by machines. His armor was spiked and heavy, his face covered by a metal mask shaped like a skull. He stepped onto the platform without a word. Then he pointed at Jack. "You are nothing." He growled. "I'm enough," Jack said, his voice steady. The crowd held its breath. Sahara looked at Jack one last time. "If you lose, I will surrender to him." She whispered. Jack nodded. "Then I won't lose." The shield walls of the ring lit up, trapping them inside. The arena floor shifted beneath their feet, turning into black sand. A deep hum filled the air as ancient systems powered up. A voice spoke from above in a long-dead alien language. Then silence. Then the fight began. The warlord charged first, faster than anyone expected. Jack barely dodged. Rolling under a blade that hummed with plasma, he scrambled up and kept moving. He didn't try to match strength, he couldn't. But he was quicker, smarter, human. Jack used the sand. Throwing it in the warlord's face, he swung a long metal rod he'd hidden in his tunic. It cracked against the warlord's shoulder, but the brute barely moved. The warlord grabbed Jack by the neck and threw him into the wall. The crowd gasped. Zahara took a step forward, but Mira held her back. "He has to finish it," she said. Jack coughed, blood in his mouth. He stood up slowly. His legs shook, but his hands didn't. "You fight like a machine," he said. "No. Heart." The warlord roared and charged again. Jack dodged left and stabbed with the rod. It broke against armor. But Jack used the moment to grab a small device from his boot. A tiny EMP pulse. He slapped it on the warlord's chest and rolled away. The blast was small, but the warlord's system sparked. His arm twitched, his helmet glitched. Jack didn't waste time. He jumped and drove his elbow into the warlord's throat. It was like hitting stone. But the warlord stumbled back. Jack grabbed a shard of metal from the ground and threw it. It hit the warlord's shoulder joint, exposed now from the EMP. Sparks flew. The crowd shouted, some in shock, some in anger. Zahara's father stood up. Watching closely, the warlord fell to one knee. Jack stood above him, breathing hard. "You want mercy?" Jack asked. The warlord looked up, his face bleeding under the broken mask. "Finish it," he spat. Jack raised the broken rod, then stopped. He looked at the crowd, then at Zahara. "No," Jack said. "Let everyone see you kneel." The arena lit up. The walls faded. The trial was over. Jack had won, and he had shown mercy. The crowd erupted. Some cheered. Others stood silent, unsure how to feel. A human had beaten their greatest warrior and hadn't even killed him. That made it worse for the warlord, so much worse. Zahara ran to Jack and hugged him tightly. He leaned into her, weak but smiling. "You did it," she said. "No," Jack whispered. "We did it." As the warlord was dragged away, broken and humiliated, Zahara's father approached. He looked at Jack for a long time, then bowed his head. "You are family now," he said. Jack blinked, unsure what to say. Zahara just laughed and pulled him close. Above them, the black ship powered down. The threat was gone, but the world had changed, and so had Jack. He had arrived as a fake husband. Now he was something more. The stars above the city seemed brighter that night. The warlord was gone, his army scattered, his name crushed beneath the weight of truth. But peace didn't come all at once. It came slowly, quietly, like the first breath after a storm. Jack stood in the palace garden, his arms wrapped in fresh bandages. The flowers glowed in the dark, swaying in the soft wind. He had been offered rooms in the high tower, a seat at the council, even a private shuttle to anywhere he wanted. He turned it all down. For now, he just wanted to breathe. Zahara found him near the old tree, the one shaped like a spiral flame. She didn't speak at first. She just stood beside him, watching the stars. Finally, she asked, "Do you regret it?" Jack shook his head. "Not even a little," she smiled. But it was the kind of smile that held something deeper, not joy, not pride, but something closer to relief. "You were supposed to leave after this," she said. Jack nodded. "I was. But now I don't know where I'd even go." They sat on the stone bench, shoulder to shoulder. The silence between them was soft, warm, not empty. Sahara reached into her robe and pulled out the small fake marriage coin, the same one they'd used when they first lied to the palace. It was scratched and bent, but still whole. She placed it in his hand. "We started with this," she said. Jack turned it over in his fingers. "Funny how real it feels now." She looked at him, her voice quiet. "So what if we make it real?" Jack blinked, not sure if he heard her right. "I mean it," Zahara said. "No pretending, no lies, no payment. I don't want a fake husband anymore." Jack looked at her, his heart pounding. His voice was soft but steady. "Then, let's do it." Later that week, the palace bells rang again. But this time, there was no fear. No panic, no traps, just celebration. Aliens of every color and shape gathered from across the city. They came not to witness a treaty or a battle, but a wedding. Zahara walked down the golden path wearing a gown made of starlight threads. Jack wore a simple suit, freshly cleaned, with only one medal pinned to his chest. Bravery in the face of the unknown. They stood before the council, but spoke only to each other. Their vows were simple, real. "I didn't come here looking for you," Jack said. "But now I don't want to leave your side." "I was forced to lie for freedom," Zahara replied. "But I found truth in you." When they kissed, the crowd cheered, and somewhere above, even the stars seemed to smile. Mira gave Jack a new wrist device custom-made, with Earth and Narfel language both installed. "You're one of us now," she said. Jack grinned. "Guess I'm bilingual." Zahara's father gave them a ship, small but fast. "A gift," he said. "So you can choose your own path now." Jack nodded. "Maybe we'll go visit Earth." Zahara laughed. "Only if you teach me how to eat those ... "What did you call them?" "Pancakes," Jack said proudly. "Then it's a deal." As the engines hummed and the stars opened before them, Jack looked back at the palace one last time. So much had changed in such a short time. He had arrived. Broke, tired, and alone. He was leaving as a husband, a hero, and something more. Not just a man who pretended to be someone, but a human who proved what that someone could truly become. Sahara took his hand and rested her head on his shoulder. And together, they flew toward the future, where love was real, freedom was earned, and one fake husband became the most honest choice she ever made.